question number 13. Here are 4 fraction cards: 3 quarters, 5 eighths, 6 twelfths and 7 sixteenths. Use any 3 of the cards to make this correct. Well, we've got some inequality signs here, and this means basically that this one in the middle needs to be greater than this one at the end, but it needs to be less than the one at this end. So they've basically got to go in order of size. So we've got to go smallest, then the middle one, and then this has got to be the biggest one. Now there's quite a few answers to this actually, so we'll look at a few different ways of doing it. So the easiest way of perhaps thinking about this is to spot that this one is 6 out of 12, and that's the same as a half, because 6 is half of 12. So you could put that one in the middle, and then all you've got to do then is look for another fraction that's less than a half and put it in here. Well, 7 is less than half of 16, because half of 16 will be 8. So if half of 16 is 8, 7 is less than half of 16. So you could put 7 sixteenths as being less than a half, and now you would need something that would be more than a half. Well, half of 8 would be 4, so 5 is more than half of 8, because 4 eighths is a half, so 5 eighths is more than that. So you could put 5 eighths in that one, or you could also realise that 3 quarters is more than a half, which is quite obvious, so 3 quarters could also go in that one. So any of these answers would be acceptable. There's even another way of doing it. You could attempt to find a common denominator. So you might spot that if you use the 16 here, you could try to turn them all into sixteenths and see what happens there. Well, to get from 4 to 16, you would have to times by 4. So you would also have to times the 3 by 4. Because whatever you do to the bottom number, you've got to do the top number as well. So 4 times 4 is 16, so 3 times 4 is 12, so that will be 12 sixteenths. To get from 8 to 16, this time you've got to times by 2. So 8 times 2 is 16, so 5 times 2 is 10. So 5 eighths is worth 10 sixteenths. Now 6 twelfths is not so easy, because you can't easily go from 12 to 16. But what you would spot is that 6 twelfths is the same as a half. So if we turn it into 16, it's got to be the same as a half. So half of 16 is 8. So 6 twelfths is a half, so 8 sixteenths is a half. So that's your equivalent fraction there, and obviously this one is 7 sixteenths. Now you've got them all in sixteenths, you can see that this one here is the smallest. Okay, so we're just going to write them out in order of size now. So we've got 7 sixteenths, then we've got 8 sixteenths, then we've got 10 sixteenths, and finally the biggest one, we've got 12 sixteenths. Now obviously when you write in these boxes, you've got to put the original fractions, not what it is out of 16. So you could put any combinations in here as long as it's in this order. So you could have 7 sixteenths first, and the 8 sixteenths comes from 6 twelfths, and then the 10 sixteenths comes from 5 eighths. So you could have those 3 being in that order, or if we rub it out, you could also have these 3. So you could have these 3 instead. So you could start with the 8 sixteenths, which is 6 twelfths, then 10 sixteenths, which is 5 eighths, and then 12 sixteenths, which is 3 quarters. Either of those two answers would be acceptable.